Talk. Why not? Why not talk? Let's really talk to each other. I really want to talk to y'all today like I never talked to y'all before. It's important that we talk to each other and be open with each other about issues of the day that affect us, because there's so many things that are going on in the world, and the important things about one another that we need to understand, that we need to, which is to communicate and to talk to one another and communicate with each other about what's going on in the world and how it affects one another, because we are going through some troubled times, and I'm sure it's going to get much more worse before it gets better. So I'm not going to today do too much myself talking, but what I'm going to do is point out to you the importance of why I've been coming here talking about what I've been talking about. And y'all know what I've been talking about. Those of y'all who've watched the show over the last 5 weeks, you've seen that I've been identifying with issues of the day that have been affecting me and my community for years. You've seen that I've been one that's been out there in the eye of the storm speaking about issues that affect our community every day. And I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go to Soundview TV, YouTube, and look up Green Home. Look at YouTube, Soundview TV, and see what I've been doing. And as Cecil Young only could because I wanted to, and because I felt like that was what God wanted me to do. And I want you to know that I don't feel sorry about anything I've ever done in terms of me speaking out for our people and for our community, because I know that that's important. I know it was important to me to be able to do what God has allowed me to do, which is to be able to help those of them that couldn't help themselves, because along with that, He know that He helped me. And He helped me so that I can feel the importance of this value of helping one another. It's important that we do look out for each other. So I want y'all to look at the website, look at these programs that I've had here, look at the time that I've started these programs, and it takes about a half an hour each show. And each show will explain to you what has happened to me. And what has happened to me should have never happened. You know, you talk about rights being violated. My rights have been violated in every shape, form, or fashion. And it's a shame and a disgrace that we as taxpayers, we as homeowners, we as who've been out there in the eye of the storm, helping those of them that couldn't help themselves, can be persecuted, and no one really want to investigate and respond to what I've been saying, which I've been accusing some state-appointed officials of some serious allegations. I've accused Albert Murphy, who was the chairman of the labor board. I've accused Gerald Weiner, who was the chairman, also part of that labor board. Mike Cohat, okay, who's part of the labor board, who was supposed to be representing those of them that were unjustly terminated, those of them who filed in complaints against those employees who violate their rights. And it's sad that you got city officials and state officials to get together and to violate my rights. It's a shame and a disgrace. And you know, what bothers me is that Janine Hawkins, for her to have to write the U.S. Attorney's Office and to complain about me, saying that I'm a complainer, I'm just someone who's just a dissatisfied employee who's just complaining just to be complaining. Y'all, when you get through looking at what I've been doing all my life, you will see that I'm not just a complainer, I'm a doer. I'm a doer. I'm the one who's been out there doing what I had to do, not because I had to, because I wanted to. I loved helping our people. I loved helping our community. That's right, I don't care what color you were. It wasn't about black and white, it's about right and wrong. And I served black folks as well as I served white folks, and I served them all on the same level, because it's about that with me, and it's always been about that with me. And I'm saying to y'all, all you gotta do is look at some of the things that I've done at Green Home with the police details, okay, in the Green Home Apartment, back when I was supervising the Housing Authority police details for the Housing Authority. I was being paid $6.25 a week, and I supervised those Housing Authority police details 7 days a week, around the clock, for almost 5 years. In Green Homes, Aquatic Apartment, Trumbull Gardens, okay, P.T. Barnum, all right? I mean, there was a time when at the residents in P.T. Barnum, you couldn't give them the apartments, even though they had just got through spending $50-something million to rehab it. You couldn't give the apartments away because there was so much going on in Building 15 and Building 14, okay? But because of me going to Mayor Busey at the time, asking him to put together a detail to patrol P.T. Barnum to make it safe, that apartment building began to get filled in, those apartments began to get filled up, okay, and people began to move in, proud and honored to be able to move there and to stay there and to feel comfortable because of what we had to do, because of what I did on my own, out of the way of making sure that our people got treated right. I've done these things because I wanted to, not because I had to. And I'm pleading with y'all. Go to the website, go to YouTube, go to Green Homes, go to Soundview, and look at what I'm talking about. I need your help. I need you to call the Connecticut Post. I need you to call WICC. I need you to call those folks who you listen to daily and ask them, Have they heard about what I've been saying? And if they have, why haven't they responded to it publicly? Could you believe that out of 17 years, none of this really has not been in the paper but twice? And that was done by the reporter from Harvard, Ken Dixon, who was a Harvard reporter who worked for the Connecticut Post at that time, who Mike Daly at the time had asked him would he look into this. That was the only time that this story was ever told, and never their name was given. Gerald Weiner, Mike Coad, prominent folks with power and juice, attorney. I said to them, if anything I said here isn't true, sue me. For Janine Hawkins, for her to turn around and to send a letter to the city attorney's office, the U.S. attorney's office, and to say that I'm a disgruntled employee, and to say that the union agreed with them. The union did not agree with them. That is another lie. For her to say what she said, that was another lie. And the city attorney's office knows good and well that I came to work, because I got paid for coming to work. You will see all of this information on these dates that I'm pointing on this calendar, on this billboard. You will be able to watch these videos. Each one of these videos runs for about a half an hour. It will show you time card showing that I came to work. It will show you that Dr. Evans' supervisor signed and okayed me coming to work. It will show you that I got a step check stub showing that I came to work and I got paid. Nevertheless, I got terminated for not so-called coming to work. And what did the labor board do? Instead of ruling against the city for violating my rights, they covered it up. And I said to myself, why would the labor board, who was designed to protect people's rights, would violate the public's trust and go along with the city when they got overwhelming evidence showing that the city violated my rights? Why would they go along with that? So what I did, I requested up under the Freedom of information pertaining to those commissioners, and I found out why they did what they did. They were committing fraud. They were committing civil rights violations, and that's what they did. They were black and white. They were black and white people who violated my civil rights. They were black and white people that we put in positions of authority to help us, help ourselves. And instead, they are doing the Pharaoh's bidding by covering up for unjust acts. Just like what happened with the brother in the subway who got strangled. All right? Now, I commend the brother for trying to get involved and wanting to make sure, okay, that this brother did not do nothing stupid, and the others that got involved. But to the degree that he got involved with that chokehold, knowing how deadly the hold that he had on him could cause his demise within moments. And to have him hold in that position so long is what the problem is. That's what we say when we say to the police, why did you have to shoot him 4 or 5 times? Why did you have to shoot him so many times? And that's what we're saying here. And that's what's going to be said down the future. You can rest assured that Al and all the rest of them are going to be raising the issue of why come. He had to be choked to death. And they're going to connect that to the brother Floyd, who had the cop who had his knee on his neck. They're going to say, look at the amount of time he had his knee on his neck. And that brother who had that brother by the neck, holding him as long as he did, the way he did. He knew what he was doing. He was a Marine. He knew how to take you out, take you down. That brother who he had was not that big, was not that strong. He didn't hurt nobody other than aggravate him. We got a lot of folks that aggravate us. There's a lot of folks that aggravate us, and they're black and white. And it's not right, so we commend you for stepping up. We commend those who want to support your defense, because you should be defended for wanting to step up. All we saying is that the overkill was what we're talking about. The over-excess chokehold. Knowing what you did, and you knew what it would do to someone, the way you held them so long, that's what we're upset about. That's why we say to the police when he says, pull over, give me your license and registration. And the brother said, no, I'm not going to take for my license and registration. But I'm hitting my hands, officer. And why is he doing that? Because he's afraid of the officer shooting him. Because it has happened before. Oh, give me your license and registration. So he was reaching for it. Bam! No. We could stop that. I didn't have that with these police details in Green Homes. Now, last week in the Connecticut Post, there was an article saying that there was thousands of cards given out. Questionnaires asking the public how do they feel about the police, and the police feel about them. And they said only 100 or so people responded out of thousands. Why? Why? Because they were trained to what? It's not the police's fault. They were trained to attack. They were trained to attack, not to be social workers, not to be communicators. Yet and still, that should have been part of their training. They should have known that was part of their training without even being said. When they worked for me, I didn't have that problem. I gave them goals and objectives. You're being paid not to go out and lock up and hurt people and to violate the public trust. You're there to prevent crime. You're there to protect our equipment, the housing authority's equipment. And in the same process, you can protect our residents with diplomacy and respect and build a rapport, so be it. And look at the results of the residents in Green Homes and in B.T. Barnum, saying how much they feel about the police and made a difference. These are residents, Puerto Rican, black, huh? White officers, huh? Puerto Rican officers, huh? Sergeant and a patrolman, they did the right thing, which was what? Do what I asked them to do. Now, why aren't they going to do it for Chief Porter? I don't know. All he said was, go find out from the public, how do you feel? How do they feel about how y'all been treating them? And you know they don't want to do it that way, and you know the reason why. It's because they've been trained to attack. That's why them 5 brothers in wherever it was, when they beat that brother to death almost, beat the brother to death, the 5 black officers who beat that brother to death, kicking him and beating him down. Huh? So it don't matter about the color of your skin, it's the content of your character. Their character was one in which was very low, was very cheap, was very minute. They wouldn't have beat them down like that if they were white. Why would you beat them down like that? Why? Because they were black? And because you thought you could get away with it, because you've been getting away with that? And then you want to know why come people won't give you no good response to your questionnaires? Why would they give you a good response to how you've been treating them like a dog instead of treating them with diplomacy, with respect? My officers did not have that problem. Look at Sergeant Garcia. She was the chief of police of the Bridgeport Police Department. She worked on my detail. I didn't hear nobody she beat down. Look at Sergeant David Daniels. He worked on my detail. I didn't hear nobody, him or his officer beating anybody down. Look at Manny Cotto and his sergeant meet together. I didn't hear about them beating nobody down. Come on, y'all. Why? Because I told them to prevent crime. Prevent crime. It ain't about how many you lock up. It's about how much crime you can prevent. Because as soon as you lock them up, you know they're getting back out. So why waste the dime? Why waste the time? Prevent the crime. That's all we're saying. And you can do that. I offered you that a while back. I offered you that a while back. Why did I offer you that? I offered you that because I knew what it takes. What it would take to help us turn our neighborhood around. What it would take to help people want to begin to respect you, communicate with you. It's not all your fault. You were trained to attack. But now listen to me. You're a modern day prophet who God has sent forward to tell you how to do it. Look at me. Go to YouTube and look at Green Home. Don't just listen to me. Don't just listen to me. Go to Green Home and look at YouTube and see how the officers were treating the people. How the people treated them. Do the survey with them if you want to do a survey. That's how you do it. When Mayor Tom Busey appointed me as the mayor's liaison officer in '86, my job was to meet with the community, meet with the merchants, introduce the postcard, the police patrol car, the walking detail to the merchants and into the community at large. Why? To get to know your neighbor, to get to know your residents, to get to know your business owners, your business sponsors, your taxpayers. Huh? Some of them didn't want to do that. But these are the kind of things they got to do. They got to be restrained. And they got to learn to be accepting the fact that I may not be what they want, but I am what you need. Huh? I can understand that. You used to run me. I mean, I have my days in the sun where you ran me. I understand why you sometimes say, what are you talking about? Well, look at me. God blessed me with the power to oversee you and them who had the power to run me. Now I'm running you. But I ran you with diplomacy and respect, and look at the results we brought forward. There wasn't no crime. There wasn't no bodies. There wasn't no peeing in the hallways. There wasn't no beat downs in the driveways. There wasn't that kind of problem. I had more police up there in Green Home than there ever been. Building 5 on the 2nd floor. That was my office in Building 5, Green Homes. Round the clock. 3 details. 4 sergeants each shift, 8 police officers each shift around the clock. I did it 7 days a week. Why? Because I wanted to. Why? Because that was power. God said, when you get power like that, you're supposed to use it, not lose it. And I used it. And I'm proud and I'm honored and I'm proud to say, look at what I was able to do, me, myself, those of them who thought never would be anything to anybody. Look at what God has allowed me to do. So can you imagine what you can do with what you got? I didn't have what you had. Look at me, I was a city sheriff 16 years. Huh? I know some of the boys got upset when they see my uniform because I look kind of good with my stars and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But I did that to inspire the kids, to inspire our people in our neighborhoods who have defects, as I had a defect. But I realized in the height of my defect, God will still use you if you practice what you preach. Huh? And that's what I began to do. And I began to realize that I began to bear fruit. And I like that. I never thought I could bear the kind of fruit that I was able to bear. And I'm proud and honored. And I want to thank God for allowing me to be able to do so many powerful things that help so many folks that I never thought that I would ever be able to help. I saved lives. I made neighborhoods safe. Look at Green Homes now. They got more lights around Green Homes than it ever been. It's safer now. Look at P.T. Bonner now. They got more lights than ever was before. It's safer now. Look at Father Pennick now. It's safer now. You don't hear about people being gunned down, shot down like they used to. You don't hear about garbage and trash slung all over the place like you used to. Yes, we still got a problem with P.T. Barnum, which is the sewage, I'm sure, is still going on in P.T. Barnum in the basement, and I got to finish up that before I close up and give up, because I'm retired from all these issues, because I'm 73 and I'm tired. My whistle days, as they say, has about over. I ain't gonna say no more after this, too much more after this. But I want you to know that I enjoyed my routes. As God said, if I can help somebody as I travel along the way, they said, man, my living would not have been in vain. And I would like to think I've done that. Done it because I wanted to, not because I had to. You know, it's good to do things that you want to. And God has been good to me doing that. And I thank him for that. And I want him to know that I appreciate that. And I want those of them that ever think that you could never be what you thought you could never be, you can be. Go ahead and exercise that in what you got in your heart and your mind. Let God guard you. Let God direct your path. Let him open up doors that you never thought could open because of who he is. He will open up doors. He will move mountains. Talk about what's in your hand. You got the power of night and day in your hand. All you got to do is use it. Use it or lose it. You ride by the cemetery every day. You look at your neighbors, your friends who've come and gone, and you say, what could they have said that it could have made it a little more easier for our kids who are coming up during these troubled times? What could they have done that they couldn't, that they didn't do, that they could have done? Because we all are here but for a moment. God said, share what you can while you can. Huh? The old saying said, God said, something said, God said, what did he say? Lord said, Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. He said, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. Well, I said, the Lord is my shepherd, but I do want. I want justice. I want the justice that they did to me and my family. I want the justice. And I'm pleading with you to look at this website. Don't just listen to me and look at me. Look at the website. And I want you to contact the Connecticut Post. I want you to contact WICC. I want you to contact News 12 and ask them, why not me? Cecil Young, who did what he had to because he wanted to, not because he had to. I ain't never sold out to nobody. Ain't nobody ever controlled me. I'm 73 years old and I feel honored knowing that God has blessed me to be able to put this kind of situation together, to show him the power that he has. So I will bring you my only one and only Dr. Martin Luther King, who will continue the rest of my legacy by the words that he will shed. I'm coming to you. Hold up for a minute. And my lady here, we got it going on for a minute. Pray for me. It was a moment or two, but that's all right. Sometimes things like this happen. But there's a reason for everything. But it's going to be worth your while. For what I'm about ready to bring you is from one of the greatest men that ever lived in our time.
With you today,
and here he is.
In what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, sir.
It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds.
Watch it now. Talk about it. Come on, Doctor. Talk to him now. Listen to the man. He's telling you the truth.
But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time. to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment.
Yes, sir.
This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until that is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges.
Check out the website.
But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.
That's right. Come on, Doctor. Talk to him. Let him hear you. Hear him. Come on.
We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline.
That's right.
We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence.
That's right.
Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
Yes, sir.
The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people.
That's right.
For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny.
About Jamie and the other boys, come on, let's not forget where we come from. Come a long way.
And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom.
Yes, sir.
We cannot walk alone.
No, we shouldn't.
And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead.
Yes, sir.
We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied. As long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.